Hey soldiers, I've been examining the British royal family's wealth, and there are certain aspects of how they grow and maintain that wealth that you and I can emulate to grow and maintain wealth.
That's all you had to say.
Now, we've got a lot of subscribers in the UK. I've got a lot of friends from the UK. We love you all. All right, a couple of things I want to say from the outset. Number one, this is not an examination of any aspect of the royal family other than this financial piece. There are plenty of channels who do a great job in looking at other aspects of the royal family, and if you want, some insight on that, certainly go check them out. But we're just looking at one aspect. This is what we do on this platform. We take a look at people and organizations that have money, and we see what characteristics we can adopt in order to help us out on our road to financial freedom and also helping us to maintain that financial independence. That's number one. Number two, you may live in a country that doesn't allow you to opt into certain benefits that we're going to see here, okay? But do your due diligence, because if you are able to adopt some or all of these techniques to grow your wealth and to really start perpetuating wealth throughout the generations of your family, then I certainly encourage you to do so. Now, the first thing we're going to start out with is the realization that just because you are so-called royal, you're not necessarily rich, okay? What? There are people in the UK today, in Britain today, who are lords and ladies and dukes and duchesses that are not nearly as well heeled as the royal family that we know of, okay? A lot of these people work regular jobs.
May I suggest our signature Spice Girls?
Right? And when you see these big estates that they have, that costs a lot of money to maintain. They're not getting government stipends if they're down the food chain in the royal family. And that's why you see a lot of them have taken their lands and started producing agriculture or tourism or a combination of the two so that they can make the revenue to maintain that estate. Okay, so way back in the 1500s, there was a gentleman by the name of Jacob Fugger. And I want you to take a look, see if you can pick up this book. It's called The Richest Man Who Ever Lived by Greg Steinmetz. It's about Jacob Fugger. Now, I got a little issue with the title simply because I don't think Jacob Fugger was the richest man who ever lived. I believe that title actually goes to Mansa Musa. We're going to do more on Fugger, Mansa Musa, and others in the future because believe it or not, a lot of the techniques that they used in antiquity to grow wealth still apply today. All right, so with regard to the British royal family, I picked up on something that was very interesting. Watch this video and then we'll talk about it.
Draft of an order in council confirming your Majesty's wishes in relation to the Sovereign Grant Act 2011 to continue the tradition of surrendering the hereditary revenues, including the Crown Estate, to your government for the benefit of all, in return for the sovereign grant, which supports your official duties as head of state and head of nation.
Approved.
Okay, you heard her say, tradition of surrendering the hereditary revenue, including the Crown Estate. Now, of course, you know me, when I heard revenue and estate, my ears perked up, and I'm like, what is this? And then, of course, she goes on to say, in return for the sovereign grant. We all know grant, talking about some money, so I want to hear more. All right, so I started doing some research, and this is how it works. King Charles III surrenders hereditary revenues in return for sovereign grant funding. Now, hereditary revenues is pretty easy to understand. All the context clues are there. Hereditary meaning all of this money that has been growing for, the better part of 3 centuries now are sitting on his shoulders until this ceremony where he, participates in a process that's been going on since the mid 1700s to hand the wealth over to the British government in exchange for a pretty princely sum of money. All right, let's get into it. Every monarch has turned over the crown estates to the government since King George III. King Charles III formally surrendered hereditary revenues, including the crown estate, to the United Kingdom government and will begin receiving a sovereign grant funding his official duties as monarch. The arrangement signed by Charles has been the same since 1760, when King George III offered care and profit from his privately owned lands to the national government. Charles made the proclamation in a royal ceremony on Saturday, today for me. And that's what you just saw, a portion of that in that video. The royal family's private real estate investment holdings are typically, historically, turned over to the nation with each successive generation. Private real estate investment holdings. Right? In exchange, the sovereign is guaranteed a generous government stipend to fund their works, their travel, and their personal expenses. The Ascension Council formally proclaimed King Charles III the sovereign of the United Kingdom at St. James's Palace on Saturday morning. Now let's dig a little bit deeper and look at exactly what these techniques are that they are using. And then we're going to talk about those techniques in relation to how we can use them. All right. And some of which we've talked about ad nauseum. Okay. So we're going to find that we're going to get confirmation that building wealth, there is a formula to it. All right. The passing of Queen Elizabeth II involves not only the transfer of the crown to her first son, Charles, now officially King Charles III, but also a shift of her personal wealth and the ownership in trust of a massive portfolio of assets that range from iconic castles to crown jewels. Queen Elizabeth's historic reign helped cement the British monarchy's brand, which in 2017 was valued at about $78 billion, according to an estimate from consultancy Brand Finance. That includes tangible assets such as Buckingham Palace, as well as the monarchy's intangible value of its brand, that's called goodwill, which boosts tourism to Britain and sales of products that carry a royal warrant or a coat of arms. They make a lot of money off of that. So the real estate and all that is being transferred over to the government. Queen Elizabeth's net worth is $500 million. The Queen's personal fortune stems from her ownership of art, jewels, investments, and real estate, which includes Balmoral Castle in Scotland, where she passed away on Thursday, and Sandringham House in England. Together, those assets are valued at $500 million. Not too bad. Most of her personal estate will be inherited by King Charles, okay? Most of that, $500 million. Guess what? She's not paying any, well, he's not paying any estate taxes on that. Death and taxes are said to be inescapable, but the UK's monarch is exempt by law from one major tax aimed at the wealthy upon inheritance, the estate tax. The nation's sovereign is off the hook for inheritance taxes, according to The Economist. To that end, King Charles won't face the United Kingdom's 40% inheritance tax.
Yeah, baby.
Which otherwise would have eaten up about $200 million of his mother's estate. Now, if you're not familiar with the Soldiers of Finance channel, I know all the soldiers out there know how to avoid this. But for those of you who are new and don't, there are ways for you to pass your wealth on to your heirs without paying taxes on it. Now, here in America, the wealth tax is, I think it starts at over $1 million. Okay, so a lot of people are not going to be in danger of hitting that, but for some of you out there, very well may be. And one way to pass on wealth is without incurring taxation, is via insurance policies, Roth IRA, and you got to talk to a CPA about this, but there are certain corporate structures that would allow you to do that as well. So Prince Charles is dodging the estate tax. Dodging legally, this is the law of the land here. He's not doing anything that they haven't passed into law. He doesn't have to pay the estate tax. Okay, so if you can pass wealth on without having to pay a tax on that wealth, then you're doing something that a king is doing. The Crown Estate has $34.3 billion in assets. The Crown Estate will now belong to King Charles III as the country's remaining monarch, but there's a catch. It's not considered his private property because it is held in trust. That means he cannot sell the assets. Here's another key. Now, we just saw him agree, okay, to that in the video we watched earlier. We just saw him agree to that. He can't sell the assets, but why would he? Why would he want to sell anything and get taxed when they've held these things for so long and they're kicking off enough income that they can make this deal with the government, continue this deal from 1760, where they say, okay, we'll give you all the assets and you just pay us a stipend off of that. The Crown Estate owns assets and real estate valued at $34.3 billion, according to its latest financial report. Its holdings include Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace, and land and properties across London and the UK. The massive management company is overseen by an independent organization, rather than members of the royal family, with surplus revenue paid to UK's Treasury each year. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, the British family, they're on welfare, basically, the tax money. But actually, if you look at this, they're taking their wealth and they're giving it over. Now, they are getting something in exchange, okay? But so is the government. So this is a pretty nice little deal here. But what can we take from this? Primarily the fact that they're not selling anything. They're just allowing these assets to continue to appreciate, and they're not incurring taxation on the sale, something we talk about all the time. Although King Charles can't dispose of the Crown Estate assets for personal profit, the royal family enjoys a financial windfall stemming from those holdings. At least 15% of the profits from the Crown Estate goes to the royal family via the sovereign grant. You heard her say that earlier. And this is according to the royal family's website. So this is what they're doing. And they're not trying to hide it. It's right out in the open. The Crown Estate earned a profit of $311 million in its most recent fiscal year, which means about $47 million was provided to the royal family. Okay, so that money is generating about $311 million. Those assets are generating about $311 million a year. And of that, the royal family is getting $47 million. All right, nice gig. So basically, they are not touching the principal at all. They are letting the money work for them and kick off some revenue. And they don't say, but I would be interested in understanding exactly what percentage is put back to, reinvested to help it continue to grow. King Charles III, $24 million from the duchy. Pass the duchy on the left hand side. Not that duchy. Before becoming king, Charles held the role of Duke of Cornwall, which gave him management of the Duchy of Cornwall. That role is held by the person who is heir to the throne, which means the duchy will now be passed to Charles's eldest son, Prince William. All right, so we see the inheritance, big time here. Charles is moving up. William is getting assets, okay? Look, I'm not going to complain about this because there's nothing I can do to change it. I'm going to learn from it, and I would encourage you to do the same. Wouldn't it be great if at some point you could say to your children, hey, you're going to inherit this, okay? And we structured this so taxes aren't going to bite you, okay? And give you a leg up in exchange for you stewarding this money correctly and doing the same thing for your children. The Duchy of Cornwall encompasses more than 130,000 acres of land worth $1.3 billion, according to Fortune. Damn! But as with the Crown Estate, Charles wasn't permitted to sell the land. Again, no problem. He don't want to sell it. Although he collected revenue by renting the property to farmers, businesses, and residents. Okay, so he's deriving income from that real estate. According to the Prince of Wales's website, Charles earned $24 million a year through the duchy.
Most impressive.
Here's the last one. Charles's biscuit business is worth $35 million or more. In 1990,
Chop Rock jumps upon the scene.
What also happened in 1990 was King Charles started a food business called Duchy Organics. Food business, okay. With the goal of selling organic food products, an unusual idea at the time, 1990. It partnered with the grocery chain Waitrose in 2010 and has since contributed more than $35 million to the Prince of Wales's charitable fund, according to Waitrose. The business operates separately from the Duchy of Cornwall, and all profits go to charitable causes, according to the Prince of Wales's website. Products sold under the Duchy line at Waitrose range from organic free-range eggs to organic Highland all butter shortbread. Now, what can we take from that? Come on, guys. We talk about it all the time. Starting a business, okay? This thing that they've got over there is rock solid, lock tight. All right, let's run through it one last time. These are all things that you can do, depending on where you live. But here in America, we can do all of these things. We can do every last one of these things to build and maintain wealth. We can purchase real estate, income-producing real estate. We can never sell that real estate and just watch it appreciate throughout the ages. We can start a business like his company that does the organics. Again, we never have to sell anything. Just having the assets produce income. We can leave that principle alone and just, again, have it generating that income and reinvesting a sizable portion of it. Last but not least, certainly not least, we can legally reduce our tax obligation by using certain vehicles such as permanent life insurance policies, Roth IRAs, and also certain real estate and business configurations as well. Did you know that a 1031 exchange allows you, under certain circumstances, to sell real estate, get the profit out of that, the appreciation, and then if you purchase another like-kind property or a step up, you don't have to pay taxes on that. Did you know that? So that is yet another way that the IRS here in America says, hey, go for it. Okay, as long as you do it our way within the rules, there are some avenues you can take to legally reduce your tax debt and have more of your money grow unimpeded by taxation. Now, I know with regard to real estate, there are some countries that do not allow citizens to own land directly. All right, but there may still be ways for you to purchase property and then rent the property out, like a hotel, like an apartment, like a house, like a business structure. So you got to check with your government and see what's what. But a lot of those things you're going to be able to employ, if not all, depending on where you live. All right, soldiers. That's it for today. Take a look at this video. Learn more about how you can grow your assets and avoid taxation, but do it legally. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon.